Live, local. This is Fox 12 Now.
Hello everyone, this is Fox 12 Now. I'm Greg Nibbler. As always, thank you for joining us. We are live here out of the Fox 12 Oregon newsroom, and we are live streaming every weekday starting around 1 p.m. going throughout the afternoon. You can find us at kptv.com. Click on the Fox 12 Now tab, the Fox 12 Oregon YouTube channel, wherever it is. Thanks for finding us. Don't forget you can share these episodes as well. And right now, we're going to be talking about actually a trip outside of this studio to a different studio, to a music studio, recording studio, a venue in Southeast Portland. It's on Southeast 64th, just off of Foster. And I'm talking about the Hallowed Halls. A really amazing story as far as a local place saving a library. It used to be a library where this is at. It was converted into the Hallowed Halls. And we're going to talk all about that and what it brings to the community, what it brings to the music community as a whole also in Southeast Portland there and in Portland in general. And we did so by talking to Justin Phelps, who is the owner, chief engineer out there at the Hallowed Halls. And so it was a really interesting experience getting to see it. We're going to play this for you right now. Here it is, the Hallowed Halls on Fox 12 Now. Well, Justin, here we are. We're in the control room here at Hallowed Halls. We're going to talk about all this stuff that's behind us right here, too, because there's so many different things going on.
A lot of toys.
You got a lot of toys. Got a lot of buttons and a lot of lights, and I'm not going to push any of them. Oh, yeah, cool. And this is obviously the Tiki Bar. And this is that same room we were in.
It's the same room, yeah.
Libraries, man. You know, again, a lot of buttons I'm not going to push or touch.
Buttons, yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of potential in here.
I want to talk about this building. You know, you're from Portland.
Right.
And this building has been here for a long time, but it was not always a recording studio. Can you give us some of this history of it?
The building is a little over 100 years old, and it was built by the Carnegie Association, along with 30 other libraries in Oregon. I think it's one of the last two standing in this area.
Wow.
For a long time, it was a library, and it was a center of the community. I think it was paid for by the community. Some interesting things happened during that time. I think in the late 40s, early 50s, Woody Guthrie was commissioned to come and write about 30 songs for the Columbia River Project.
Oh, yeah. I remember those songs.
Yeah, he would come and do concerts in here in the large room out there, probably debuting some songs like Roll on Columbia or, you know, some of the classics that we all heard in grade school.
Oh, yeah. Roll on Columbia.
Yeah, exactly. And I heard that, you know, he was friends with Pete Seeger, and they even did a couple together, which I think were probably, I mean, I don't know for sure, but maybe at least the first noteworthy musical events in this building.
And that was way back in the day.
Yeah, late 40s, early 50s.
And so there was still a library at that point.
It was a library at that point, and it stayed a library until 1972. It became a sort of community action office run by a woman named Leah Wickman. This was actually the first building in the state of Oregon to be named after a woman. She did a lot of really cool stuff. I think kind of impoverished parental outreach, community action, and it sort of went through a lot of different incarnations, I think, during that period until about 2000, mid-2000s, and it started to become kind of left for dead. Eventually it was sold to our first landlords, and I think they purchased it in 2014, and then we, you know, started construction at the beginning of 2015. So It's been almost 10 years since we've been here.
That you've been in this building. I mean, that's a lot of different iterations of this. And, you know, you talking about that kind of left for dead there for a little bit. That's like a lot of buildings in Portland.
You'd be amazed at how many incredible acoustic spaces and spaces with tremendous entertainment potential are just sitting there empty too, kind of hidden away in these older looking buildings, like big old grand ballrooms and things like that. And unfortunately, there's always a lot of red tape and tangles that just make them inaccessible. And so they sit there.
Well, this one though, I mean, obviously you made this work.
We got lucky.
Yeah. And well, lucky, but also a lot of hard work. I mean, you can see it just in this building too.
There was a little luck involved.
Yeah.
This is a pretty
That's always a little
place.
combo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We could be in a warehouse.
Right.
So this is the very large tracking room we discussed in the control room. It was built to be a tracking room, and very quickly we realized that you can easily do concerts with lots of people in here. And so we've enhanced it with this, you know, fairly large stage. And our friends at Biamp were cool enough to donate this really great sound system for us here. We've got the old 80s style side fill monitoring, which is always one of my favorites. We've got a Yamaha SX5 which is the thing that draws a lot of the classical sessions in. It's a beautiful grand piano here. Oh, the Hammond B3 over there, Fred's wanted me to point out, which it turns out that were mostly destroyed by John Lord from Deep Purple, so this one survived and works great.
And this is obviously the Tiki Bar.
Being a punny guy, I say it's the Staycation Lounge. Why go anywhere else?
And again, one more aspect of what you've done here in building this place out. So this is open during the shows, I assume, and anytime that you have something.
It's only open during shows.
Only open during shows. What was the idea behind Tiki? Why Tiki?
Well, so it started as a mastering room, and mastering is sometimes a little boring. So I'm like, well, what's fun? Like, Tiki's fun, And so a friend of mine and I framed out these huts, right? And so we're gonna call it Tiki Town Mastering. And I set up a desk in here and started doing some records. We did some kind of cool stuff for like Fat Records and stuff, And I started to hate the sound really fast. It just didn't work. It's too hallway-ish, right? And so then we had these huts. Like, these are permanent structures, And so it's like, well, let's just make a bar.
Well, you mentioned Studio B also.
Well, it's right there through that door, yeah. Studio B, which is a smaller room that we use for single mic things, vocal tracking, voiceover tracking, editing, mixing. It's also where a mastering desk is. Back to historical stuff, this was the children's wing of the Arleta Library. And I've seen this really touching picture during the Depression. Right behind where the Tiki Bar is now was a Well Baby Center.
Wow.
There's this really amazing picture of this doctor with all these mothers with the babies, like just in that exact spot.
All here right next to where...
Yeah, right? Yeah.
Wow.
Some soul in there, huh?
That is, yeah. And again, just, all going back to that history of this place and the different iterations of things that it's been. And here now, bands are recording. I know, I think you mentioned too that there's like audiobooks that you do here and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, we do a lot of audiobooks.
Again, a lot of buttons I'm not going to push.
A lot of buttons, yeah.
So.
Yeah. Not quite as much as the other room, but getting there.
Still.
It's a good room. It's a necessary room for the other room. So this is just the little recording space for Studio B, which is just big enough for a string quartet. When I was designing the place, I kind of kept that in mind, that might be an overdub that we could do. And so you can actually fit 4 people in here. If you point the mics just right, still have pretty decent isolation. There's a nice old Myron Frank paintings, more Portland history. My old garage door.
I love it. Finding new uses for everything.
Absolutely.
Living on hopes, living on dreams, running on empty, lost in the sea.
You mentioned, you're from Portland. Woody Guthrie performed here,
right.
Back in the day, and then now you're here, steward of this building, keeping this here in the community and recording music here and doing what you love. Like, how does that feel to be, that person, this person who's keeping that going?
Well, I feel like I'm handing stuff back. I started playing in bands here in Portland in about 1984, 85. Played our first shows in around 86 at the Pine Street Theater and Satyricon, and the teenage band I was in, the punk rock band. Myself and some of my friends, really started pretty interesting careers that kind of centered around music during that time. And it's great as we get older and see younger generations come up to be able to create a facility where we can now be the people that provide space for other people to do their thing. And that makes me happy.
Yeah.
Whoever owned Pine Street Theater back in the mid-'80s, they were probably about my age.
Yeah, I probably had that same feeling too, seeing, these younger people coming in and doing what they love and playing their music in here, and you have this space for it. Going to that community aspect too, I know that you do have a lot of events in here where community can be involved.
A lot, yeah.
Yeah, and keeping with that theme maybe of even what it was back in the day.
Absolutely. It's something that's been part of the business since we got going, really. I think the only reason we started to do shows here is that there were people involved that were in bands. And we didn't really have the stage and the big sound system like we did now. It was just a low thing that sat on the floor and a cheap PA system. But we started doing shows immediately and also different kind of things that were sort of performance-based. Sound healing workshops, like kind of meditational stuff. little classical concerts and acoustic things. It wasn't originally a great place for rock and roll because the room was too live and the stage was too low and it was so white out there. But since then we've painted it black and given it some splashes of color, and I think it's become
more rock and roll.
Become thought of as more of a rock and roll venue now, especially with some of the stuff we've been working on the last few years. There's always been a live performance aspect to this stuff. One thing we figured out a while ago is that you can experiment with the idea of people playing recordings in front of audiences. We're very scientific about judging whether that was a beneficial thing or something that worked against the person's focus. And what I found is that it's very beneficial. I think adrenaline is one hell of an additive to a musical performance. It's like you can make an album in 45 minutes, you know?
Wow.
And there's as many flaws as if you were to do 5 takes of every song.
Yeah.
Right? It's just the sort of thing where things just get worked out and you get that kind of sense of unified intention that, well, honestly, you see animals in nature achieve, right? Birds in flight, schools of fishes, you know, maybe like when someone has to perform something perfectly the first time, like let's say a cat is being chased through a hole in a fence by a dog,
right.
You know, and they just know how wide that hole is and they're going to get through it because they have to.
And that's
right?
what these live performances are like, because they have to get through that song. They have, you know, if there's a mistake, you have to figure out that
You're
way.
playing that guitar solo in front of 50 people.
You can't stop in the middle of it.
Or make
I'm gonna
mistakes
start
even.
over. Yeah. Yeah.
It's got to be just right.
Yeah. So you record those sessions, and you've got all of this, you know, a really amazing equipment here too.
We do. We have a Neve console, and I figured out ways to isolate things really well where it can still be in a stage format. But if you were to solo the instrument, even though it's sitting right next to other loud instruments, it sounds like it's just in isolation.
That's a lot of scientific work.
It took some time.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's been a project of 5 or 6 years, but it's working very well, and I really enjoy getting to mix and seeing those recordings get out into the world. And you know, one thing we've really enhanced our capacity to do is video production. With my studio partner, Fred Johnson. We've added a lot of very high-end video equipment and lighting and stuff like that. And so now, in addition to doing the high-fidelity live recordings, we can do like a full-on cinema-style video shoot. What we're looking at here is a collection of recording equipment that dates back to the 1950s. I started my career back in the mid-90s, and I acquired a lot of stuff back then. Some of the first things were these mic preamps, right? So they are arguably the first outboard mic preamps. There must have been a kid in here drawing on it. Is that nice? The hilarious part to me is, you know, the way gear gains value as it ages.
Yeah.
And the recording business is one of the only industries where we prefer to use stuff that's like 70 years old.
Yeah.
We think that's awesome. You know, it's like, oh good, it's like 60 years old. Perfect. Next to that, we have the current Neve recording console. It's a Neve Genesis 48. It gives the studio an advantage for making good records because we have a unified sound. This is a mic preamp that is actually made from the electronics for a 1950s 4-track tape recorder. So this is the sort of thing like someone like Elvis would have recorded through. And it's just got a very big, very vintage kind of sound to it.
Well, with all that capability, you know, and bringing in so many different kinds of artists and performers and different things that you have going on in here for this space and the recording aspect, you know, where do you see this going? You know, because clearly it's going well, but what's the vision for the future of this building?
Well, you know, we're in the entertainment industry, man. I mean, it's mostly about surviving. Yeah. You know, it's you know, our client base is not a wealthy client base, and so we try to make things affordable for them. But as a result, you know, we're generally pretty bare bones financially. I'm kind of currently looking to maybe get involved with some of the larger entertainment companies in town, other bootstrap guys, and possibly opening up the option of doing kind of intimate, like VIP level shows with maybe with catering, or you know, get some of the tables out. You have a pretty good sized stage out there now, and the lighting looks like a, you know, high level club. Yeah. But wouldn't it be cool if, you know, for the super fans or whatever, they could, you know, get a different concert in that's just, you know, 100 people out there instead of 5,000 or whatever. Right? And
you've had some really big bands in here recording, and
we've made some records for some pretty some of the region's best, I think, and people have come in from out of town too. You know, I think the reputation of the place is spreading as just being a really good recording studio.
Yeah. a really good recording studio in a great space.
Sure.
And right here in Southeast Portland.
Yeah.
The symphony stuff has been great too.
Yeah.
You know, that's one thing. We have a third studio partner, Robert Langslet, who's very involved in the classical and jazz world in Portland, and he's really opened the door to us for a lot of work with Oregon Symphony and affiliates of them. Some really gratifying stuff that you know, we're sort of charity acts for Path Home and companies like that, and which always really feels great. You know, to make art and have it go for like a really soulful, rich purpose like that is cool.
Yeah.
You know, we've been doing some classical concerts here and there, more recordings than that. You know, we have a beautiful piano that Robert brought in. Have had some pretty interesting stuff coming out on all classical and stations like that.
Wow. So really tied into so many different things here, you know, in Portland.
Yeah, from punk rock to classical.
Punk rock. Yeah, you got the gamut right there in the
Got it
hip-hop
all.
studio in the basement.
Yeah.
So, well, for everybody out there, you know, who's maybe just hearing about this for the first time, what would you recommend them to you know, get involved with Hallowed Halls or just find out more about these events and different things that you have here?
There's a lot of ways to get involved. You know, we have a big internship program. We always have at least like a dozen young engineering students showing up that want to learn more about production and stuff like that. So McKenna's one of our engineers in training here. You know, pretty much anytime you come by, you'll see McKenna. And this is Haley here, who's our assistant venue manager and recording studio manager. And so they volunteer to come and help with sessions, and we do little seminars for them and things like that. Often they end up getting jobs either here or somewhere else, or just working specifically for a band. So that's one way people get involved all the time. You know, the other way is just to come on down. You know, we do the Bomber Show on Sundays. It's a 4 to 5 act matinee rock show that's all ages. And it's pretty great. I mean, I'm a father, and both my kids work at it. And it's just, we dreamed it up as the idea that like someone who lives in the neighborhood who wants to go and see some cool Portland rock and roll, and it's the middle of the day on a Sunday, you know, like they can bring their kids down, you know, and that's really what it looks like in there. You know, it's like there's always like, there's been mosh pits of little kids and stuff. It's cool. You know?
That's really cool.
And we had some great bands come and play it. It's actually somehow, maybe through our booker, Sean, it's on the network for touring bands. And so almost every other bomber now will have a band from out of town coming through.
Just stop by to play a show.
Yeah, they're just coming through and they heard that's the cool thing to play in Portland. You know, and what's great is that they can do like a Saturday night show in Seattle and then drive down here in the morning and do this afternoon thing, you know.
Yeah.
You know, or maybe after they play another show in Portland, they can do it.
Wow. So yeah, one more way that, you know, involved with the community and these outside bands and having a cool place.
Yeah.
Really neat.
Yeah.
Well, awesome. Well, anything else that you want people to know?
Well, you know, keep playing music.
Yeah.
Keep supporting live music.
Yeah.
I mean, it's. I think it's in a lot of ways it's the backbone of the entertainment industry here, and I think it's great that we're that way because it really encourages a lot of great musicians to live here. We have, I think, well above average songwriters in this town, which is something that I think in other cities there's a deficit of, and that's something we can't take for granted. Yeah. There's a lot of people making very cool original music here, and that's a special thing that we can go and do that. You can just go see someone play a song that they wrote. It's not a cover band, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and they need places to help foster that and help keep that going. And do that.
Absolutely.
This is part of that community.
That's right.
Going back to when you started playing bands, you know, in '85 or
Way
whatever.
back then, yeah.
Yeah, way back then to where we are now, still doing that. Well, awesome, Justin. Thank you so much for having us down here.
Yeah, no
You know,
problem,
to check
man.
this out. This is really cool.
Yeah.
So, thanks.
Yeah, it's great to have you guys in.
All right, there we go. Talking about the Hallowed Halls there in Southeast Portland. Big thank you to Justin and behind the scenes, Fred and Sahaley, who were there helping out to set all that up. And then, of course, on our end, Daryl and Anne-Marie, who did the editing on that. And yeah, this is something that we get to do here with Fox 12 now, these longer form segments showcasing cool things that are happening in the community. And that has to do with the music community, has to do with the people there in Southeast Portland, being able to come down and utilize that venue and play music there, and it's a fun spot to go check out. So huge thank you to Justin and all of them for letting us out there. And again, this is Fox 12 Now, so we are live streaming here every weekday starting at 1. We go throughout the afternoon, but really you can watch our segments anytime, anywhere, the Fox 12 Oregon YouTube channel or on the Fox 12 Oregon app, or go to kptv.com, click on the Fox 12 Now tab. So plenty of places to find this and share it. And I encourage you to check out all the other things that we get to cover here with this show. It could be deeper dives on news stories you see on our other news programs, could be breaking news, could be things that affect you, whether your utility rates or something in the community like this, or events. So you could always write us, Fox 12 Now at kptv.com, Fox 12 Now at kptv.com. And if you have an idea for a segment or something that you think should be covered, feel free to reach out. I can't guarantee we can cover it every time, but certainly send us an email and let us know what it is, and we'll see if we can do something for you or about that. So thank you, everybody, for joining us. If there is breaking news throughout the afternoon, we will be back with that. We'll sign off right now. I'm Greg Nibbler. This is Fox 12 Now.